Hello, everyone. Big surprise. I'm here with Ashley. Can you believe it?
It's me. What's up? How is everybody doing?
Ashley's excited today. She's got energy. Why are you
Oh,
so
yeah,
pumped up today, Ashley? What's going on?
because I get to talk to all of our beautiful, magnificent, and spectacular listeners. So we're coming at you through the computer screen, through the car speakers, through the phone. We're here. We're here for you guys during cardio. What's up?
How exciting. Well, Ashley, sorry for the listeners. I'm going to open my drink right now. You want to know something about me? I have like pet peeves of a few different weird things. And
Okay.
the drink opening, I hate the sound of the drink opening. I hate the sound of drink opening. It annoys me so much. And then,
Oh,
but I open one all the time because I got brain energy drinks. And then I hate water when it's pouring out of something and it like bubbles, like the sound bloop, 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 bloop. I hate that.
yeah.
And microwaves beeping. I don't know what my problem is, but I have
Oh,
this.
the microwave's beeping. That's a beautiful sound. I don't know what you're talking about.
You
It
know what
means
makes me
the food is ready
You know what makes me mad about that is because you
because
generally
you're not
mic
eating it.
well, probably, but you you generally microwave something for like a minute, and then the beep is so excessive. Like if your alertness needs that much after 1 minute time, like you have a real memory issue. Like it's so
Yeah.
excessive, It should just be
Yeah,
beep.
it does. It like beeps every minute if you don't open the door. That is kind of annoying.
Yeah, it should just be because you're close. It's a minute. It's 1 minute. So you're close to the microwave. So it should just be beep because but
Yeah.
so anyway, like the redundancy of the microwave.
Do you want to
And
know
so,
what my biggest pet peeve of all time? We're not
what
just
is
talking
that?
about in the gym, but for everything.
What's that?
It's the opposite of what you do with the text. So sometimes with you, you don't answer the full question if I ask like 3 questions, or you only look at the text below it. It's the opposite of that. I cannot stand when people will text something and instead of pressing enter to finish a sentence or using a period, they'll be like, hey, how are you today? Send. I'm doing very well. Send. Did you check out last night's video? Send. It was crazy. Send. Smiley face. Send. I'm like, oh my God, stop. I hate that so much. Like, it blowing up my phone for like one sentence. Like, that could have been just one text. I hate that. It's like, you're listening to music or something, trying to do cardio, and then you hear beep, or you're looking at a video and you see beep. I'm like, I don't want to turn off my phone because I know some people trying to get a hold of me, like, you or
Yeah,
something. So I don't ever want to turn off my phone, like the noises, but
so funny.
I just hate that. I
I
hate
was
that
that
so much. Bring back the paragraph, please. Like,
hit the space bar, hit the return, bro. Okay.
yeah, return.
This is one of our better intros. I feel like we should get all of our random rants, like our random rants, and put them in one compiled thing. That'd be so funny.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
That's funny. The only reason I remember that because I was listening to this video about because like I'm like obsessed with Elon Musk. I was listening to this video about him and his like pet peeves. It was like he hates the sound of a car reversing or the forklifts reversing, and then he won't like allow strong perfumes in his like Tesla center when they're building, or he won't allow the color yellow. Like has to minimize yellow. He
I'm
hates
wearing
it.
yellow pants. See?
so so like
I
he
love
won't.
yellow. Yellow's happy color.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a problem with colors, but he won't. He doesn't. He wants to use the minimal amount of yellow possible, and the problem is that there's all this like safety things that need to be yellow, but he like tries to make them red, I guess, because he hates yellow. So
Wow.
funny. I was like, wow, that's eccentric. So anyway, I guess when you're rich and you're a little weird, they call it eccentric, but when you're poor and you're a little weird, they just call you crazy.
Oh,
That's how it goes. Okay, Ashley. So
exactly.
what is the topic of today besides our pet peeves of soda cans and text messages?
Well, I would say a good topic for us today would to be to cover the differences between, I'm using air quotes for those who can't see this on video, mainstream fitness and competition type fitness, because there's big differences people don't even realize. Let's, for starters, when we think of mainstream fitness or general fitness, we kind of think of like mind, body, soul, and functional fitness, which in the competition world functional fitness isn't that big of a deal. In fact, I would say for some competitors, mostly like the bigger guys, maybe bodybuilding, they're not very what I would call athletic. I don't think they would be able to run very fast or keep up very long if they're doing something for endurance. I don't think they would be that agile. I mean, some of them probably, but for the most part, I would say, you know, when you have that amount of muscle, it's kind of hard to move quick. It's kind of hard to stay moving. But again, there are exceptions to everything, and I'm sure we can find a super athletic bodybuilder. But you know, that's not their main focus. Their focus is putting on muscle. Their focus is building symmetry. And as bikini competitors, it's kind of like the same deal, but not to that extreme. You know, when you're in that competition world, when you're in the zone, when you're training, you know, you're looking for symmetry and to build upon your physique. And that's basically your art, is your physique. So how far you can run, how fast you can run, how high you can jump, kind of gets pushed to the side as you focus on building your body.
Yeah. And I think, you know what? It's funny that you talk about that subject too, because we know it can be done, but not at the same level as if you were just doing like gymnastics. If you were just, you know, if you're just doing that, I think, yeah, you could jump higher, you could go faster, you can go for longer periods. And there's a good like middle point when you look at, and that's why I think that fitness is the hardest division by far, because they have to be so muscular, but still have to be pretty athletic at the same time. So there's definitely a way to capture both to some capacity, but I think, yeah, those women who are doing fitness with how much muscle they have, I think definitely they could jump higher. If they had less muscle, they could go for longer. If they had less muscle, and that's what you see too with like, you'll see like in MMA, you want like some of the best guys in MMA have physiques where you're like, that guy's a fighter, you know, you're like, how is he, how, you know, like type of thing. Like there's just a lot of them just don't have crazy physiques. Anderson Silva would be a good one to think about. He's very fit and athletic, but you don't see him as this crazy powerhouse of who you imagine being like one of the best fighters in the world. And the reason is that much muscle is hard to go for a long period of time with that much muscle. You know, it takes a lot of oxygen. You're going to decrease your abilities to do long distance running, long distance sports. And so that's why you see that happening so much with that in that scenario. You know, you see a big muscle guy come in and like a UFC, they usually only last like until the end of the round, maybe the end of the second round, and they're just like completely gassed. So it's not efficient for that. So I think it's good.
Another thing that's not efficient too is the amount of body fat we have in comparison to other athletes. You know, I can even see, just as an example, when I was doing races to get in shape for shows, you know, I would do a 10K race every weekend, and you think like, okay, so as the weeks go by and I'm getting more and more cardiovascularly in shape, you would think my times would drop, but it was actually the opposite, because the leaner I got, the harder it was for me to get good times, because like I'm basically running on E, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that extra energy storage is like fading away, you know? So that's another reason why, you know, competition athletics are very different from just your average athlete type deal, you know? I think it's really not the best way to perform if you're in a very depleted state. But I do realize that there are some athletes like wrestlers and stuff that kind of have that, but not to that extent, I would say.
Yeah. I remember when I was wrestling, it was like we would basically do whatever we had to do to make weight in the worst way possible. Like water. I mean, they don't even allow that anymore now, but like water, and then we would eat just like bread. It was crazy. Like we'd eat just like, yeah, well, we didn't, you know, it was like nutrition it was like no one knew anything like they do now. It was, you know, it was 22 years ago. So like we would eat like it was funny because we'd be like, oh, just eat the lightest food. You know, we were like, I was super young, and we're like, eat light food that's not super calorie dense and not weight dense, and then don't drink water, and then you'll make weight. And then after you make weight, just go eat everything at McDonald's. You know, it was like so stupid. So you have energy. It was the death diet. Like, you don't want to be doing that. Nowadays, there's a lot more education out. There's a lot more available. I mean, there was no YouTube, Instagram, social media. Like, there was nothing, you know, so it wasn't even the internet then. So that's what we just did, whatever anyone else did in our local area. But as far as like, you know, fitness goes and competing goes and like how to train for it, I think that with what you said, that there's a lot of thought process that has to go into creating a competitor routine, and that you do have to look at that. You do have to look at, okay, if my goal is to be inefficient, which is have the most amount of muscle possible and the lowest amount of fat, so that's the most inefficient state you can be in, should I be training for efficiency or should I be training for inefficiency? And the answer should seem pretty easy. You train for inefficiency, which is crazy to say, because in every other sport, every other context, you want to train strictly for efficiency. You know, you want to run longer, you want to run faster, you want to, you want to recover faster, all these different things. But for bodybuilding, it's the opposite. We want to get a stimulus from the lowest amount of stuff we can do. So for example, like when I do cardio routines for people, I try to give them like the lowest possible amount that'll get any result. And then I go in these small increments, like 10, 15% increases, because when we look at things in a grand scheme of things, if we're talking about 10, 15, 20% deficits and stimuluses we're creating through cardio and changing by 10, 15%, then, and we're creating stimulus through that, well, that's great. If I start you off with 10 minutes and then the next week we do 12 minutes, that's 20%. But you're getting the results. All I care is you're getting results every week, and we're hitting these like normal numbers. So the problem, I think, and how we can look at this as a lesson standpoint is, okay, why would I train for efficiency and run very long distances very early in my prep when I'm trying to just create a stimulus and adapt to that stimulus in a positive way and get a good result from it? So I think I probably went a little far there, but I think that it makes a lot of sense. You know, if we're training for efficiency, we are not going to get the best inefficient result. And I think that's what people need to at least take from this, because if you're planning on doing a show prep and you're starting off right away with 40 minutes cardio, you cut all your calories, it's going to be really difficult to create a stimulus in that progressive manner to get results at the end. In the beginning, absolutely. And this goes for all you dieters out there too. The problem is in like Western culture, like we're so want it now, want it fast, you know, 5-minute abs, that type of stuff. We're so like trained in our mind to think, hey, I'm going to diet, so I'm going to go crazy, freaking hard, and then lose weight in 30 days. And then I'll be fine in 30 days because whoever did it, like some celebrity, you know? I think Beyonce had a diet out the other day, which was like basically air, which was crazy. So like we look at that in this Western culture and we attack our diets like that. And the problem is that we set ourselves up for failure in the week 16, in week 12. Yes, 30 days, you could lose 10, 15 pounds, but then what about day 35? And when your body just completely comes to a halt. So anyway, I went off a little bit on that, I guess. I do that sometimes. I'm not,
good.
You know what,
I like hearing it.
I'm talking about efficiency and I'm like the most inefficient talker.
You're an efficient talker. Come on. You are very literate and you are very proficient in your words. So it makes a lot of sense to me. So it definitely helps me because I'm learning things too. But yeah, that's a good point that you made. And it's a weird thing to say and a weird thing to try to describe to people that like you almost don't want to be too good at cardio for the sport. You would think like, it would be a great thing to be super amazing at cardio. But on the flip side of things, if you become too good at cardio, you lose that stimulus, or it's going to take much more time to get that same amount of calorie burn than if you were to gradually build up to it. I think you gave an example once, like you had a marathoner or something that ran so much long distance that it was kind of hard for you to find that stimulus because she was so used to it. That was like an everyday thing for her. So to really push the envelope, you got to find a different way to train or to get that heart rate up, or for the body to, you know, try something that it's not used to doing.
Yeah, you pretty much exactly nailed that. That was great. Yeah. I call it, like, another example I give it is the baby deer. Like, there's a lot of these weird things out there that you have to like look at, and that research won't really that I've seen doesn't really support the end result. And you have to look at things kind of anecdotally and be like, okay, this worked, so why did it work? But research won't prove it, you know? So like what I use is just as an example, like when a baby deer first comes out of the womb and they're walking around, they're all wobbly. Well, that's the most calorie burning that walking that baby deer will do. So my first day doing Orange Theory with you was baby deer day, right?
Baby deer.
I haven't.
Baby deer. Adam was a baby deer.
I was, and it was, you know, the worst scenario for my joints because I was the least stable, right? And because my body's trying to stabilize me so much, I'm just sending off a lot more impulses to balance myself neuromuscularly with my joints and trying to stabilize. Therefore, I'm burning a lot more calories because I'm less stable. My body's trying extra hard. I have bad cardio, so I'm just consuming oxygen like crazy to try to get through this. And then, you know, as you see the deer grow up, they're running, you know, walking, running 30 miles, you know, whatever a day they can do, very efficient. They couldn't do that in the beginning. One, they would never get there, but they would burn up all their energy the way they were walking before. So the better you get at cardio, the less it's going to work. So, and because we have to create I always say that the stimulus is very simple. So bodybuilding is very simple. You create a stimulus, you adapt to that stimulus, and that adaptation period is the results. That's simple. That's that simple. So what are you going to do to create a stimulus today? Well, if you ran 30 miles yesterday, you're probably going to have to run 31 today. That's a lot now. Now you're getting to the point where you can't create a stimulus because it's just too much. And there gets to be a certain point where it becomes counterproductive. Like, you know, a 10K, that's not going to hurt you really. But if you're doing, every day you're doing a 10K and then you're like, oh, my results stopped, I can't get any more results, but you don't want to run any longer. Well, sorry, you're probably gonna have to run longer. And now if you have to run longer, you're exercising for efficiency. So your muscles will look differently because now you're training for long distance, for endurance. You're not training for, you know, hypertrophy specifically. Your body's going to go more towards, okay, let's survive through all this work expenditure that we're doing, and let's become more efficient. Let's have less muscle because we need to have more oxidative capabilities than when we had a lot of muscle. We couldn't consume any oxygen the way we needed to. So yeah, so you got it 100%, Ashley. That was great. You're getting really good at this stuff, man.
Oh, you know, I learn from the best, you know. You know, I think it would be a great opportunity to share the differences like that we've had as both a athlete for performance and a competition athlete, because we both have backgrounds in different areas. I am a former track athlete. I ran track in college, and you for hockey, correct? And a little bit of wrestling. But I remember in track, the training was obviously super different, right? We focused on a lot of plyos, a lot of fast twitch muscle type work, drills, and the worst workouts were for me, the 400-meter repeats. And we would do those once a week. Those were so miserable because you have that 400 meters, which is a full lap around the track. You get that lactic acid buildup, and that lactic acid buildup causes nausea. And I just remember doing these rounds of 400-meter repeats, and I would just feel like I had to throw up afterwards. We barely touched weights, though. We would have one weight day per week, and it wasn't the kind of weights that we would use. We did like Olympic style lifting, so like clean and press and all that explosive type work, like plyos mixed with weights too sometimes. And that was very, very different from what I currently do, which is mostly weights and cardio for weight loss. The diet was a lot different as well. We were very much encouraged to eat carbs, especially before a race. The common thing would be like, go have a big spaghetti dinner before your track meet, or there's a long practice coming up. Make sure you get your carbs in the night before and the day of. I remember during track meets, the snacks that we would have like a group snack box. It'd be just carbs and lots of granola bars. It would be like, I guess a common breakfast would be like a granola bar and a yogurt. That would be like a pretty common breakfast for me at that time, just for reference. And of course we would have like 3 meals a day, maybe like a snack. But as bodybuilders, we now are more, I guess, focused on diet and what exactly is going into our body. And we kind of calculate that more, because you've mentioned before too, if your weight fluctuates a little bit, like let's say 1 or 2 pounds or something in your running track, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Okay. Maybe it might even help you. Maybe it's some more energy storage, right? But as a bikini competitor at my weight, if I were to be 1 or 2 pounds off, that's the difference between like first and sixth. So that's a big deal. Whereas in track, that wouldn't be. And I think it's also important to note that there's the different physiques that accommodate track versus bikini. You know, I would like to describe my physique when I ran track as I kind of had the same sort of structure, but like a little more skinny fat. And I don't want to say fat like I was fat, but softer, but smaller, if that makes sense. Not as defined. I didn't have any striations. I might have had a slight amount of abs. Hamstrings were always popping though. Them hamstrings were out to play every day. But there's like a lot of differences, and it might not be that noticeable, but to the untrained eye, it kind of looks like, oh yeah, she was athletic before, she's athletic now. But to really look into it, I'm definitely more symmetrical now and leaner as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've found to be kind of like a natural selection type of scenario, where I find that people who suck at a sport are usually doing the wrong sport for their physique type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it seems like people who get really good at that sport are completely built for that sport. So you have like, you won't see like a big giant guy, like a full-on endomorph, large structure, NFL lineman looking type of guy, like be like, oh, I want to take up cross country. You know what I mean? You just don't see it because like there's something in there, like in your DNA that just tells you, hey, I hate cross country running, and they don't do it. But it's like, I think it's because it's you're like something in you, just like intuitively, you're just like, I don't want to do that because it sucks. But really you're like, I don't want to do that because I suck at it. And then your body's like telling you, no, we're just telling you suck at it because we don't want to do that. You're not made for that. You're made to lift heavy stuff and go for just a second or two and be done. And I think that people kind of migrate towards that because one, everyone wants to be good at what they do, and you can't like force that guy to be good at cross country running. So like his skill set would only go so far and he would always hate it. So I think it's like something that we naturally do, and you were built, like you look built for your division that you did. Like,
Yeah.
Like
What sports I always avoided though? Anything with team, like volleyball, basketball, softball, soccer. I'm like, F that. I don't want somebody else's mistakes to like ruin my performance, or likewise, I don't want my mess up to become somebody else's problem. I hated team sports. Hated. Didn't touch them. I only did gymnastics. I did track, cross country, and swimming, and now bikini. So that's 5 sports that are more individual. I mean, I guess technically it's still team sport, like Team Elite Physique, what's up, hey? But you know what I mean? To where I can still excel on a personal level rather than depending on my entire team to carry me through. I hated that. But you were a team sport player, yeah? You did hockey. So tell us a little bit about like how hockey training was in comparison to your training as a men's physique competitor.
Yeah, so the hockey training was a lot of cardio, but for very short distances. So like we would train double our rink time. So generally we'd be out on the rink for like 40 seconds to maybe 70 seconds type of thing. So we would train for double that. So we would train as hard as we can for 140 seconds. Then you get a rest. Then you train again hard as you can for 140 seconds. Then you get a rest. And it was equal to what you typically would be doing on like a 3-line system. So that's how we would run our drills, like in hockey when we're doing like our endurance-based drills, because we just needed to be good enough to get through at 100%. And we never wanted to build like an endurance type physique still. So, which was kind of cool. we would train specifically for our sport. And actually I trained with the LA Kings trainers. They were our team sponsor. We were supposed to be,
Cool.
we were on a world level. So every it was twice a week we would train with those guys, and that's how they train us. You jump in the box, set 140 seconds, crazy hard, like throw up hard, and then jump back in the box. Jump. It was nuts. But it was really cool because I was like the best peak like cardio conditioning I was ever in, but it was still short distances. It was just very, very proficient in very short distances, so it was really cool. And then the weight training was explosive. It was all explosive stuff, all strength stuff, all the stuff that I wouldn't do now. That's like a little harder on the joints, a little worse on your physique.
The Olympic style lifts, like
a lot of that stuff, a lot of squats, deadlifts, but explosive wise. Like now it's, and honestly, I would say that even I trained 3 times, maybe 4 times as much for hockey that I do for men's physique. Like it was just so
same
much
here.
fun.
We did 2-a-days, like last like an hour and a half or 2 hours. Yeah,
it would be 2 hours minimum training in rink, off ice, and then we'd go to the gym after that. So and then so it's like you're just, and then I'd run every night just to keep my cardio, my base cardio up too. So I'd run. It wasn't a lot. It was like 2 miles, something like that, every night, something like that. And so it was. And so when I looked at like men's physique training, I was like, this is easy, like this is
until you get to the diet part.
Yeah, that's the difference. So the diet with hockey was really just, I needed to be bigger. It was always need to be bigger for me.
Oh, so you got to indulge in everything.
Yeah, but it was dumb, the way we did it. We did it, again, I was, I was older as a teen. I was already into this stuff, but I wasn't like good at it yet, the internet wasn't even out yet. It was like, I mean, I think it was out, but no one was using it for like, we can now you just type in YouTube, you probably type in best hockey player diet, and there'd probably be 100 things. Back then that didn't exist, It was like, oh, what do you do? Like, I don't know. What did Jake do? Oh, Jake eats egg whites in the morning, raw eggs and peanut butter. All right, I'll eat raw eggs and peanut butter. I was like, that's like, he's pretty good. What does he eat? Oh, he eats gummy bears after. Oh, eat some gummy bears. It's like, we just had no clue. So, so everything, now it's just so much easier to be like proficient at your diet for it. But it was a lot of like weight gainer shakes, peanut butter. I'd eat steak, like just whatever I could eat to get calorie wise. But for men's physique, it was really, and that's why I like competing so much too, is that you kind of like, you really find out who you are and what you can handle when you compete, because there is that breaking point for a competitor that like, it becomes a mundane, repetitive, like activity where you're eating similar foods all the time and you're going extra hard in the gym all the time, and it adds up. And you're just like, at a certain point, a lot of people are like, man, like, is this worth it? Everyone reaches that point at a certain point. And those who say yes and keep going, I think can accomplish literally anything that they set their mind to. And those who quit, like have that quit in them. And then they're always once you get that quit in you once, I think it's easier to accept that quit a lot more in your life. So like, I think it's super, super important to like what we do in contest prep in terms of setting up your standard for yourself, like am I going to quit today? Like that little voice, and just shutting that voice up, like I think that's so critical. So that's why I do like the base I had with sports who like taught me pain. And then the base I had with like men's physique would taught me discipline, So
yeah. I'm on the same page as you. I feel like training for bikini isn't as hard as training for track was. But with that being said, the diet is what's the most difficult. And the overall dedication, I would say, requires a lot more, because in track, it's like, okay, you can go out on the weekends, whatever, have some drinks, blah, blah, blah. And the next time you get back on the practice, it's like, whatever. But you can't do that when you're training for a physique sport, and you certainly can't eat whatever you want. What physique changes did you find through hockey versus men's physique? You're more refined now, the physique's more refined, but what in particular did you have to focus on doing to create that men's physique?
So I actually went a different route, but I could tell you the answer to that. Because I went from hockey and then bodybuilding and then bodybuilding to men's physique. So
Mm-hmm.
there was a transitional of those things. But from hockey to bodybuilding, I just wasn't like, you got to understand, like your physique is not built like a bodybuilder when you're doing hockey training. Like, cause you're not training for aesthetics, you're training for performance. Now I was always into bodybuilding. So I always kind of had that in my head too, but I knew like I had to kind of be a hockey player right now. So my legs were big and I was like, okay, that's one thing I can keep getting bigger for the most part is my legs. So my upper body, it didn't make that much sense to have like this huge upper body when you're playing hockey because you're not gonna be super efficient. I was always trying to get bigger though, but it was like, okay, get those legs bigger, stronger, more powerful. You can skate faster and that never became an issue. I didn't get huge though either. I mean, I was playing hockey. I was closer to like 180. And then as soon as I went to bodybuilding, a year later, I was 217. That was like as big as I ever got. And now I walk around like 190 or so to give you some kind of rule, like so you can see. So now going from one to the other, one, it felt like a break. Like bodybuilding felt so much easier than hockey. You know, I was like, this is great. I got to lift my upper body all the time. I'm not just doing like power cleans and things like that. So I really liked the bodybuilding. And then when I did bodybuilding for quite a few years, I did bodybuilding for like over a decade before men's physique came out. Like, let's see, from like 18 till 28, I think it was 29, when then men's physique came out. And then men's physique came out and I was like, they were like, oh, you can't do men's physique. You're way too blocky. You're way too big. And I was like, okay, I'll do. They're like, just don't do any more back and just do some pull-ups every now and then. Like maybe once a week, just knock out like 10 pull-ups to keep your back a little bit and then just diet down and shrink up and don't be so blocky in your waistline. So stop doing movements that get your waistline bigger or whatnot. So for about a year, maybe 8 months, 9 months, when I went from bodybuilding to men's physique, I was like, okay, I got to get my waistline smaller. So I stopped doing abs. I stopped doing any movements where my obliques were used. I wore a belt like extra tight and tried never to push against my belt when I was working out. I ate super clean, trying to bring my waistline down, minimize inflammation, all these different things to try to get my waistline to come down because it was just too thick from hockey and then bodybuilding and then trying to go into that men's physique frame. And then I ended up losing quite a bit of size. I was down to like my competition weight, my first year competing was like 154. It was small, you know, but that's what was competitive in 2011. You know, they wanted you just had to have abs and like beach muscles. And it was like perfect for me because I was always struggled to get big. I was like, this is great. I was like, this is so nice. Don't have to eat that much. I just have to, you know, stay fit. And then it started growing. And then I was like, the second year I was pretty good. That's where I excelled. And I was like, okay, oh, you know, I'd probably go pro in this. Like I'll start competing nationally. And then the next year happened when I was going to go and the guys got bigger and I was like, okay, I got to catch up. And then they got bigger again. I was like, oh, I got to catch up. And they're bigger and bigger. So it's been like, if I would have just stayed from the very beginning on how they were then, I would have been just fine for men's physique like now. But now I'm like behind 10 pounds or so. They've gotten so big. I honestly hope that they change that because the men's physique guys, and everyone argues with me on this, like the men's physique guys are just as big as the classic physique guys. Like it is so hard to tell the difference if you have a tall men's physique guy and a tall classic physique guy. They look very similar in their builds. And then if you look at like some of the guys in men's physique actually weigh too much to make weight for classic physique. So they wouldn't even be able to compete. They're so big. So I hope they come back with like a fitness model division or something that
Yeah,
is
I think girls have more divisions than guys. So you guys need another one. You guys need one that's not as extreme, I guess. An equivalent to bikini for men, if that makes sense. It used to be men's physique, but I see what you mean now that it is gotten quite big, but they do need to have one for somebody that wants to be athletic and look athletic, but not necessarily put on all that buffness.
Yeah.
You
Now
like that?
we say it's bodybuilding in board shorts, bodybuilding in full posing trunks, and then bodybuilding in underwear.
And then bodybuilding for shorter guys.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, then bodybuilding for shorter.
212.
Exactly. It's all bodybuilding now. So I hope they do change it because especially like for like the regular dude, and now the regular dude can get there. It just takes so many years now. But it used to be men's physique used to be a first year, maybe second year division. but now it's turned into a 5-year division where that's how long it takes to build that type of physique. So I think that those divisions are important for keeping the sport alive too. So I hope that they bring it back, because like it would be really good for, well, really good for the regular guy who wants to get out there, you know? So,
Yeah.
so if you guys are listening, anyway, I'm getting off topic, right? So now talking about training for different things and training for physique and training for fitness, I think that one of the things that competition prep breeds is really like extremes and dedication and the difficulty that goes with that. And I think that what you said is right. The competition diet is really hard because of the diet and also because of the 24/7. I think that the 24/7 part of it is harder than the diet part of it, but the 24/7 part of it is just like, it's just so much for a sport, you know, it's tough. So a lot of people like want to do competition, but they just started off just being regular fit people. And then they go so extreme that it becomes something they don't like anymore. And that's what I hate about when people go to contest prep. Like it should be hard, but it shouldn't be hard to the point where you just hate lifting now and then you want to not even lift anymore after that. So, okay, it's funny. Whenever I give you compliments, you're always like, oh, stop. But you are absolutely, without a doubt, the best in being consistent and motivated than anyone like I've worked with, even pros, because every pro has their seasons where like, or even during COVID, they're like, oh, I'm just not into it. Oh, because of this, like, I'm just going to take a break, like whatever. But that hasn't happened with you yet. Like it doesn't, you had a period of time where you took a year off, but that's different. But when you're in it, you just stay in it. How does that happen?
I think like, I definitely don't go over the top. Like you mentioned before, there are some people that go so hard all at once that they never want to do it again. And you'll see that, I mean, even just looking back at some of the former pros we had, I wonder what the actual percentages of like people that turn pro and then maybe do one pro show and then never do it again. And I find that a lot of times, maybe it is because of their placing or how well they did or didn't do, but also because they went 110% and gave everything all at once. And, I think it is, I don't want to say easy, but it's way more common for somebody to give 110% for like 3 months than it is to kind of continuously give like 95% throughout the years, if that makes sense, because you really can take it overboard and you can go so hard that you begin to hate it. And I never want to be in a situation where I'm miserable and that I'm just, fed up with it. So I think one of the things that helps is like, we'll do like a little week off break from the gym after my competition season's over. I have time to relax, to regroup. I think those are all super important things to do in order to maintain my motivation,
Yeah. Well, that's something that I think you could do a whole topic on, because you're definitely the queen of that. So it's just so, to me, it's still strange, like that you can do it so well.
I don't know how to do it either.
It's
all I know. It's my identity.
Yeah. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that if it's healthy, so yeah, but I mean, kudos to you. So if you're going to take any advice from someone, that'll be you. So, yeah, and I have a theory on why some pros will just quit after one show. And I was actually talking to the chairman about it, Jeff, and he was like, you're really good with women, and there just seems to be like something about that. And it was because he was like, maybe it's because you grew up with just your mom and your sisters and your aunt living in the house, and it was just you and always being around women. He said, because I find it to be, we kind of talked about like, why is it that girls will quit after that show, after that first time they don't do well? Obviously the first time they don't do well is a thing, it's disheartening. But we had this like theory, like, okay, the type of people who do shows, oftentimes, especially when someone turns pro, they always had success. They're usually, they have that physique that's always been good their whole life. They didn't have to try that hard when it came to like getting their fitness where it needed to be. When they started doing shows, they just started winning right away. And then when they got their pro card relatively quickly, and all they knew was success. And then all of a sudden, they're being told yes, 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 their whole life. And then all of a sudden they're like, no, you're not good enough. And it's like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know anything but beating everyone in every show I go to. I don't know anything but being the fittest girl at the beach. I don't know anything but this. And then all of a sudden they're like, I'm 15th place. Like, how, And it's just like, that blow is so hard for so many, and they just completely are done after that. It's a crazy thing. But if you think about it,
it's like the expectations too. I think people need to get their expectations in order, especially new pros.
yeah,
I think it's just like you said, they're so used to winning and stuff, but you got to look at it in a different way. And this is something that I always have to remind myself, like, no matter what place that I get, I know that I worked hard in this prep. I had a lot of fun doing so. I'm having the time of my life, even just being there, even traveling to the show and accomplishing it. Like, think of the whole entire journey, not just that placement after the show, Because I
yeah,
think that's what really gets to people. There's so much more than just that number placing. It's the whole experience. And even being on stage is more than 99.99% of people can say
oh
that
yeah,
they've ever done. And to look like that, it's kind of like you got to cherish the moment. It's like, that is pretty cool. You can always go back and show your grandkids, like, yeah, look at me back in the day. I had some abs, whatever the case may be. But there's always something to look forward to. And, it's definitely disheartening to not do as well as you used to do. But there's a whole entire journey that goes along with it. So you just got to be appreciative.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing with being a pro, is like the community, the fun, the accomplishment. And then the problem with being a pro is you can look exactly the same, win a show, and then next week, like, completely irrelevant, like you didn't just win a show, like the
Yeah.
same package. It's just so hard as a bikini competitor, and yeah, so I think and you just got to learn from every time. You just got to ask the judges, like, hey, especially like the judges that know, like, that are at a lot of these pro shows, that, like, they carry a lot of weight with their comments, like Tarek, Tamer, Tyler, Steve, Sandy, like, when those judges are around, like, get their input, and be like, hey, like, cause they'll actually help you with a roadmap to success. So yeah, you just got to, like, go in there and, like how you are, and just have no expectations, especially if you're a new pro. Like, Anya's getting ready for the Shreveport show, and she has zero expectations, like,
That's
almost
good.
maybe a little too much. Like, I want her to have a little. She's like she's like, because I've prepped her for it. I'm like, hey, like,
Yeah.
it could go so many ways. Who knows how it's going to happen? Like, and I've had some weird ones. I've had some pros that I thought were just so killer. I was like, oh, she's gonna win the whole show, and like they don't. Like, it's crazy. Like, I had Patricia Fritz in where's she at? She's in Hungary, and her physique is so crazy, like, so crazy. You just see it, and it's like so past normal, and you're just like, man, she's gonna go win every show. And she does okay. She's done okay, but we still haven't figured out that full recipe yet to get that first place. We got in fourth, and now it's just like, okay, there's still more work to be done. It's little things, but to get that perfect, flawless sculpture physique, it's gonna take you some time and some lessons of going through some hardship to get there, especially once you go from amateur to pro. Because once you go to that pro level, you're dealing with the like, amateur level, it's like there might be 2 girls in your class that are, like, genetically, gifted, great structures, great everything. Nationals, it's like, 30% are, like, crazy looking, and then pro, it's 100% crazy, 100% genetic freaks, 100% structures, beauty, years of experience. Like, it's just tough. So yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how do we keep them longer, but I just think with these types of podcasts where you're like, where they can get their expectation to be a little bit lowered and more realistic, I think is helpful, especially hearing from you too.
Yeah. I mean, I've mentioned before in previous podcasts, you look at somebody that, got top 5 at the Olympia, and you think or assume, wow, they must have just been killing it the last 2 years, like first place every show. That is not the case. That is not the case. If you really look, you'll find that some of these girls that placed top at the Olympia, one show they might have gotten 6 at a local show. One show they might have won a local show. One they might have gotten 8th at the Arnold, and then boom, they're whatever top 5 at the Olympia. It happens. There's inconsistencies with people. As you're competing, you got to realize you're not always competing with the same people every time. So although you might look super amazing compared to this group of girls, the next show, maybe everyone's leaner than you and you're the soft one, so maybe you don't stick out as much. So there's so many things to factor into this, and nobody has like a perfect journey to the top. No one's just first place, and that's all they see. Not me, not anybody else. And it's definitely a mental game, and you have to bring yourself down a little bit and be like, maybe I didn't do so well at this show, but I see some things I can fix. And you know what? Next show, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to do better, and we'll see what happens. But I never went into a show expecting I was going to win. Even whenever I was winning Olympia, I still, even at a small show, I never like assumed I was going to win. I never came in like predicting I was going to win, nothing. So I just I'm going to bring my best this show. Let's see what happens. And that way, if I do win, I've exceeded my expectations, which is an amazing feeling. But if I already predicted I was going to win, if I already assumed I was going to win and I won, it's like, man, no big deal. I thought I was going to do that, if that makes sense. So to kind of come into a show with not the expectation of winning, but just to do your best and see what happens, I find you can get so much more reward from that, because no matter what, even if you don't place well, you tried, there's not much more you could do. But, if you do win, it's like you've exceeded the expectation, which is an amazing feeling.
And while we're talking about this, and as we're coming to an end of this podcast, we should inform everyone, because we did originally say that Ashley was going to be doing the California Pro Show. Unfortunately, California regulations changed on us, so that show won't be, I think, pushed back, or it's not happening. I'm not sure. And then Ashley was like, okay, well, let's just do Texas then. Yeehaw, San Antonio Pro. Yeah. And then the Texas went back in, and they changed theirs too now. So just so you guys are expecting her to be ready in 4 weeks, whatever. That's up for debate now. Of what we're gonna do. So we'll let Ashley announce it when it's time. If we
hopefully I can during August. We're just paying very close attention which ones are going on, which ones aren't. I saw Puerto Rico was just canceled. So
I just got a text about Puerto Rico being a thing. Oh man.
Yeah. See, we're finding out just like you guys. So I'm just gonna. Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah, no, I didn't. You're right. I thought they were sending me. Yeah, I'm looking at it.
I would have done that one.
Someone sent me this text, and I didn't see the canceled on the right. I just saw Puerto Rico happening.
I wanted to do that one. But yeah, we just got to stay tuned and see which ones go through. But I do want to compete in August. I will tell you that. Whatever show happens to fall through, we're going to go for it. So August.
Yeah.
Hopefully, let's do it.
So, and as a word of advice for all of you competitors out there, what I am finding to be the case with shows that are canceling and not canceling, it seems to be that any shows that are happening in rural areas seem to be going on. So you look at Shreveport, Wyoming, less really, really populated areas. Utah is still good. It seems to be there seems to be some politics involved too. It seems to be that Republican-based states are a little bit more free. Republican governors are a little bit more free with allowing the shows to happen versus the stronger, Democratic states like California's. But then you have Texas that throws that off too, but that's because it's so popular.
I don't know if that was Texas's fault, or we don't know if it was that, or it could be the promoter wasn't going to make money off it. We don't know. So it's hard to say if that was the reason. But sometimes the reason is because of the state, other times not.
Yeah, that's true too. So yes, there's two things we're dealing with, guys. But one thing I will say is if you're looking to do a show and you're like worried, it seems that Muscle Contest has figured out the rules and how to get around the rules and still be safe. And they did so. They worked it out in Vegas, especially because they just had 2 shows in Vegas. The first show was a little bit of a mess. I'm actually going to put a video out on it. It's kind of cool. But I want to give Tamer and Tarek props for making it happen, because me and Ashley were actually at a seminar for Muscle Contest at 6 p.m. on Friday, and we're there ready to do this like posing seminar. And then all of a sudden, everyone's like kind of panicking around us, and we're like, "What the heck's going on?" They got a letter at 6 o'clock when me and Ashley were supposed to start, saying that they are not allowed to have the event at a hotel. So it became hotel events were not a thing. So, but they gave them a letter hours earlier saying they could do it and they were approved. So they got a letter Thursday, then they got a letter 6 o'clock Friday rescinding the original letters of approval. And so Tamer and Tarek jumped out. They left the seminar. We were like, what the heck? Because Tamer and Tarek are like super professional. Like they wouldn't not show up. Little did we know, they were told minutes before the seminar, and they went around town looking for a venue that would be limited to 30 people or more that followed the guidelines. And they found one, I think he said like at 1 o'clock at night. They moved a whole show, built a stage, did lighting, all that. Didn't sleep for like 48 hours, lost a ton of money getting that extra venue last minute. And like, they just purely did it for the competitor. It was, to this day, it was the most passionate thing I've ever seen, really, in bodybuilding. Really, like Tamer, he was like, it was just crazy, man. It was how much like, because I know like most promoters would have just canceled it. They've been like, hey, there's nothing we can do. We got canceled, like nothing we can do. But he felt so bad that like he spent all this extra money to getting that venue, and he's like, man, Adam, I'm so happy we're here. But he's like, I'm so proud that we made this happen. He's like, never been so happy in my life to lose 20 grand. He was so sweet. He's like, I do the Olympia, and when I do the Olympia, I'm going to be really proud of that and for that promotion. He goes, but this one is like near to my heart because it shouldn't have happened. Like we had to make it happen. And I know now that like, no matter what happens, we can figure it out. So when you have guys like that, like,
Aww.
dude,
I feel so bad. Like he did everything he could.
And he did it all legally.
But it's not even his fault. Like there's so, with this whole COVID regulation thing, the states are so like, I don't know, up in the air about things. And then you think one thing is good and the next minute it's not. It's so unpredictable. It's like so much misinformation from one person to the other person, which causes a lot of chaos. And I know that he did everything in his power to know that like everything was set and good to go. And then here it is, it's like, oh, wait, hold on.
Yeah, it was a really sad day for me to see. And then they came in at the end and they didn't even know. And so they fined him. So it was like a really sad day for me to see a guy going out of his way to make things happen, to do something that people want to do, following guidelines, just trying to stay in business, and gets fined for being in business. That was like the saddest thing for me to see. Like I was like, and he was emotional about it. Both of them were. They're like, we're just trying to do this for the competitor at this point. Like, we're not making money. We're losing money. Like, it was just really passionate. So anyway, long story short on that, big props to Tamer and Tarek for making that happen. And we're talking 5-figure losses on that little show, And but just if you are a competitor and you're worried about your show being canceled, I can be pretty positive to tell you that, one, Shreveport's going to happen. There's no, like, it's a very small area, so they're not really going to have anything. But two, if that doesn't work for you, go to a Muscle Contest show. They're going to happen. They're going to happen. The Tamer and Tarek are not going to, they're going to find a way. It's just, they've gone so crazy with like, just so extreme with like, no, we're making this happen. We won't be stopped. We can't be stopped. Like, they're literally like, it's so passionate. I'm going to release that video. If you guys want to have a minute, watch it. But there's a point in the video where Tarek, he's like, we won't be stopped. We'll be here in 30 years. And like, it's so passionate. It like gives you chills. It's awesome. I've watched it like 4 times. So anyway, thanks so much. Muscle Contest. If you guys are doing a show and you're worried about it getting canceled, hit them up, because I don't think it's going to get canceled. Shreveport, I don't think it's going to get canceled. Anything in the rural area, you're probably safe. Yeah, so there you go. Anyway, I guess with that, do we have anything else, Ashley?
No, I just wanted to say thank you to all of our lovely viewers and listeners. We freaking love you,
Yeah.
okay? Yes, we do. I'm going to give you a huge virtual hug through the speaker. Come on in. Yes, come on in. Yes, we're hugging you right now. Group hug. Yes,
Virtual hug.
that's for you guys.
And it's
Thanks for
COVID-free.
listening. Thanks for tuning in. You're awesome.
Yeah, and one last thing, just so you guys are aware too, we're going to be setting up a professional podcast office within the next few months at the new Contest Prep Center. So if there's, we're going to make it just really nice. We're going to have a room to interview people too, and we'll have a whole bunch of cool content coming when that happens. But that's a few months away. We're building that out at the new CPC, and we have to get through again. Vegas approvals. So it'll take a little while, but we're getting it. So I hope to see
Oh, and
you
the
all.
ratings too. The ratings.
Oh yeah. You know, what's crazy is, the ratings, they fluctuate day by day, but we got last month, the highest we got was 4th position in the United States on Apple Podcasts in fitness, which was like,
wow, that is crazy.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Thanks
Fourth
to you guys. My goodness.
It's crazy because we're so niche, we're like so niche, like contest prep, basically, we work, but also mainly contest prep. And then to get that with all the other fitness podcasts out there, it's
Dang,
nuts.
I know. And it's not just competition fitness. We're talking fitness in general. That's crazy. What the heck?
You're so popular, Ashley.
It's not me. They don't like me. They like you.
Yeah, that's right.
They like you. They're tuning in for Adam B. They need their weekly dose of Adam Bo.
I think we have a good synergy though. Yeah, I think that's pretty undeniable at this point. So, well, I guess we'll leave that there before we go off on another rant and tangent. So thank you guys so much for everything. Remember, we're thirsty for stars, those 5 stars.
Yes, we are.
But we're not thirsty for 1 stars. We could let that slide. And so, but Ashley, you got your book. How's that going? Your ebook for anyone who's like interested?
Going good. Yes. It's on ashleykfit.com if you want to check it out. But yeah, it's going really well. People are really liking it. And I do have an at-home ebook too for those of you who still can't get to a gym. It's crazy. There's some states and areas that still aren't opening their gyms. Yeah. So that sucks. But I got an ebook for you, as well as just a typical 6-week ebook as well for shredding for the summer, But yeah.
And then if you're in the Vegas area, pretty soon, not yet, but pretty soon she'll be doing regular posing classes and things like that too. So anyway, that is what I got. If you need any info from me, go to teamelitephysique.com, and I will wish you a happy day. Thank you guys so much for listening.